everybody. I'm Evie Roberts, and this is my podcast, Talking in the Dark. Welcome. The aim of this podcast is to raise awareness about blindness, visual impairment, and disability in general, in a happy and light-hearted way. For those of you that don't know, I am blind. I was born with a condition called bilateral anophthalmia. Try spelling that one. It basically means that when I was born, my eyes didn't develop properly, so I wear prosthetics instead. The goal of this podcast is to remove some of the stigma and stereotypes around disabilities, whilst also having fun at the same time. Each week, I will be interviewing people from all walks of life, including some with hidden or physical disabilities like mine, and getting to know a little bit more about them and the lives they lead. This week, I am very excited to tell you that I will be talking to His Excellency, the Lieutenant Governor of the Isle of Man, and his wife, Lady Lorimer. My name is Evie Roberts, and this is my podcast, Talking in the Dark. Welcome. Hi guys.
Hello there.
Evie.
How are you both?
Well, we're really well, I think.
Yeah, absolutely fine. Absolutely fine, thank you.
That's great. How's your day been?
Oh, it's been one of those days where I'm sort of all over the island. So I've just been at Peel, rushed back here. The weather's not great at the moment, which makes it a wee bit challenging. No, but it's been fine, thank you.
So I know that you're both very busy, so thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's so lovely to meet you.
No problems. It's brilliant. I mean, when we heard about it, we were thrilled. We were very excited.
Better than Desert Island Discs, really, isn't it?
So I know that you've both had very distinguished careers prior to your current roles. Can you tell us a bit about your careers?
Well, shall I start? So I was brought up in England, but to Scottish parents. Both my mum and dad are from Scotland and proudly Scottish. So that's been sort of hammered home to me about remembering one's heritage. I went to school as like anybody, did A levels, and then I joined the army. I was just over 19. I was just 19, and I did a full career, and I was in the parachute regiment for most of that time, and went all over the world, particularly in the Middle East, where I spent quite a lot of time, because my degree was Arabic and Islamic studies, so there was a sort of specialisation there. And I only stopped being in the army when I was 58, so that was the year before last. So I've been out of the army now for 2 years. And then the month after I left the army, we came out here and I was sworn in, and it's nearly 2 years to the day. In 2 days' time, it will be exactly 2 years since I was sworn in as Lieutenant Governor.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
What about you?
Well, I left university and I joined the army, and I was an officer in the Royal Corps of Signals, so lots of communications and radios and things. And I did that for quite a long time. And that took me all over the world, actually, in lots of deserts and operational tours and things. And then I left and I worked in the electronics industry for a couple of years, and then more recently, just before I came here, I was running a charity called the First Aid Nursing Yeomanry, which is the Princess Royals Volunteer Corps, which is a charity with women volunteers helping support civil and military authorities in times of crisis. So they're sort of like an emergency response team alongside all the blue light agencies. So mine's been very varied.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it. Now, I'm sure that some of those experiences, especially, being in the army, could be quite challenging. Could you tell me about some of those challenges and how you overcame them?
Yes, real varied challenges. Normally because you're in unfamiliar situations, or you're dealing with people you don't know, and things are tough. So I think having a few, in terms of trying to deal with these things, is you have a few principles that you always apply to virtually every situation you're in. My principles, which I sort of adopted and kept, things like courage, being courageous, and that's not physical courage, that's about moral courage, maybe, i.e. doing the right thing, not the easy thing. Sometimes doing the right thing is really, really difficult.
Yeah.
Doing the easy thing is probably not the right answer often. So courage, being loyal to people you're working with, whether they're above you or below you or next door to you, so your team. Having integrity, so people trust you, and again, doing the right thing. I think one that's really important, this is one that the military instills in all its people, is selfless commitment. You're doing it because you're doing it for the right reasons, you're doing it for a higher cause, so to speak. And if you have those, I think if you have a set of principles, and it doesn't matter what they are, they're your own personal principles, but if you have those, then I think you're able to deal with normal daily life as well as when it gets tough and you're not quite sure how to react. If you sit back and rely on your principles to guide you through, then you won't go far wrong, I think.
Oh yeah, definitely. So what about you, Lady Lorimer?
Well, if I picked a couple, I suppose when I joined the army in my unit, I was the only woman for 650 men, and that included a deployment to Namibia where I was in charge of 80 men. So that was quite an interesting way to lead, and I suppose using all the things that Sir John's already discussed. You find a way, you're taught to be a leader when you are an officer in the army, and I managed that. The things I thought would be difficult were like, how do I get dressed with all these men around, or how do I take a shower? And actually those things were quite easy, because with a bit of organisation and being very practical, and I'm quite practical, you could put up a curtain around where you were sleeping, or put a sign on the door saying, please come back in 5 minutes. And so you manage to overcome those challenges quite easily. But then working in the charity, I had the other extreme, that I was then in charge of all female volunteers. And I definitely had to change, because if you're a volunteer, you can't always do things immediately because you have a job and a family and you're just giving up time. So I had to get used to taking things slowly and thanking people properly and using a different way and being much more gentle and encouraging than I might have been with a whole lot of male soldiers, because they would have just laughed. So you get used to overcoming and adapting your style of leadership.
I think for both of us, the critical where you're working in a team. Mm-hmm. And yes, you may be the captain of the team or you may be in charge, but actually you've got to rely on the team. And quite often you'll have people in your team who will know far more about the challenge than you do. And one of the key aspects of being a good leader is drawing that out of people, recognising your own teams' strengths and weaknesses and drawing on them when they can.
What do you think?
Yeah, bring them into
what would you do?
Make them feel that they're part of the decision-making process, make them feel that they're contributing and that they're providing value added. And I think that's in any environment, whether you're in a business or in a school or in the military or in government. It's about recognising that everyone has a part to play, whatever their background or their seniority or experience. They've all got something they can contribute.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think making people's skills and ideas feel valued is really important, because I think if people feel valued, they're more likely to contribute to the task at hand, really, because they feel like they'll be appreciated.
I think everything that we see about inclusivity and diversity and inclusion, that's actually at the heart of it, is how do you pull everyone in, and irrespective of what their background or their makeup, that they have something to add, and it's up to others really to allow them to express that and to add that value.
We have a son who's very bright but very dyslexic, and his memory is a gift. I would, kill to have his memory. It's fantastic. So I think people develop skills around to overcome and to get round things, and that's really valuable on a team, because they would look at things in a different way.
So that I suppose is sort of how do you avoid groupthink? How do you avoid people just doing coming up with the standard solution? Mm-hmm. Getting everyone to contribute, getting everyone to add in some way.
Oh yeah, definitely. So who is the most inspirational person that you've met so far in your lives?
Well, I'm going to ask Lady Lorimer to go first, and she can't not do that because I've just said it on the microphone.
Okay, I've been very lucky in my life, and I've met lots of famous people or politicians or or members of the royal family and things. But actually, I think personally, the person who inspired me the most was a teacher I had from age 10 to 13, that sort of young age. And she was a science teacher called Miss Saunders. And she was just remarkable. She had been a scientist before she took up teaching, and she was passionate. And she made everyone in the whole school love science. And she was remarkable when I look back on it now, because we had, on our sports fields, we had lots of bee orchids. And she ran a project with Kew Gardens and all the top scientists in the country, using children to do all the research. And so at a young age at school, we suddenly had this huge project that was going on in Kew Gardens and displayed on the walls and things. And that really inspired me to do science all the way through, do natural sciences at university. And that whole scientific bent came from those 3-4 years when I was at school.
That is amazing. I think, you can love a subject anyway, but having a teacher who's really passionate about that subject and makes it really enjoyable, it can really change your view on that specific subject.
Yes, and actually I think it can make you even enjoy subjects that you don't really like. If you've got a great teacher, you're really lucky if that happens.
Oh, definitely.
If they've got energy and enthusiasm and make it fun, then I think, any subject can be, even if it's not top of your list in terms of being a favourite.
Oh yeah, 100%. So what about you, Your Excellency?
Well, I'm going to go to the other end of the spectrum in terms of Lady Lorimer went to someone right at the beginning of her life as a schoolgirl. And I suppose the person that I've selected I only came into contact with him 10 years ago. But he's a military man, he's a general, and he's not a British general, he's an American general, a guy called Joe Dunford. And I worked for him for a year. We were in Afghanistan for the whole period, and it was a tough old time. But what was so brilliant about him, I felt, and I was his immediate subordinate, so he was the boss and I was his deputy, is being able to see a man who was a great strategic thinker. He could think at the right level, and we were dealing with politics and international affairs and all of that as well as the military stuff. But he absolutely thought at that level and was so articulate and clever the way that he described things and articulated concepts. But at the same time, to be able to do all of that, he was just brilliant with soldiers, and he understood soldiers and he knew all about them and he remembered all their names, and he had such a good touch. So we'd be having a meeting, we'd be talking about some really big, important, strategic level stuff. And then he'd walk outside and he'd meet a soldier there and he'd say, "Oh, hello, Corporal Jones. How are you? And how's your wife? I hear that she had a bit of a..." And he knew all of that. And I thought, that is fantastic to be, brilliant in terms of his understanding of geopolitical, strategic issues, but yet hadn't lost the touch of understanding what made people tick and what they appreciate. And that's a real skill.
Did he have a good sense of humour?
He had a great sense of humour.
It's nice to work for somebody with a sense of humour.
And it was always good. When things, of course, on operations don't go necessarily according to plan, and you're put under a fair amount of different pressures, but he never lost his cool or his calm, and he was just someone that you could just look up to and say, "Do you know what, he is quite superb, both as a leader and as a human being." And I thought the world of him. And, I wasn't at all surprised. He went on and became the top military man in the US military. So he was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And I'm not surprised. I thought he was wonderful. And I hold him in huge amount of admiration. And I suppose, I was 50... something then when I was working with him, and I suppose that tells you're not too old ever to learn from other people or be inspired by people. It's not, you don't have to just leave it to when you're a youngster. You can be inspired at any stage of one's life if you meet the right person and an inspirational figure.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, he sounds amazing. I think that things like kindness and understanding are such important qualities for a person to have, really.
Yes, you're right. And I think when everyone is under pressure and trying to deliver whatever they're meant to be doing, and it's too easy for people in positions of responsibility to, lose their cool or shout or whatever. But if you can still instill that sense of urgency and importance, but without making people find it even more challenging because their feels of intense glare is on them. That's a real skill. That's an attribute that we should all strive for if you really want to be a a leader.
Oh, definitely. Now, I'm sure that both of your current roles keep you very busy. So what do you like to do to unwind and relax?
First of all, trying to stay out of the office as much as possible. So that's always important. Now, we get around and do lots of visits and things like that, but actually just keeping out of the office is always good. Keeping off the computer and off the telephone. We went on holiday in August to a part of Scotland where mobile phones don't work, which to me is almost a perfect environment. So you're not being rung up or being distracted. But I like anything. I love watching sport. I'm a mad, passionate supporter of rugby, and so the World Cup's going on at the moment. So I've got them all stacked up, recorded on the machine, waiting to watch at a time when I'm relaxing. Love music, listening to music. Great fan of music from the 1970s and 80s, prog rock, 1960s, which Evie, you will think is incredibly old-fashioned and not particularly good. But for those of a generation, bands like Pink Floyd and Genesis are definitely the thing. And the last thing I do to unwind, which I put with a parental guidance warning on it, in the evening after 6 o'clock. Quite often I'll have a glass of wine or a glass of whiskey or something like that, just as the day finishes, or just before you're about to go out and do something else. So various things.
We always do. You do quite a lot of sport as well.
Yeah,
and we do a lot of hill walking together with our dog called Midge.
Oh, what type of dog is Midge?
She is
a really annoying dog. That's what she is.
She's a black working cocker. Only she was the runt of the litter, so she's very small.
She's half the size. My sister bred her. My sister breeds cockers, and I said to my sister, we would like one of your dogs, but we're not going to pay the exorbitant price you normally charge. We'll pay half. And my sister went, fine, no problem, and gave us half a dog. And actually Midge is sweet. She's 10 and a half, but she still looks like a puppy. And
she likes being Government House.
She loves it. She likes being, she's the first dog of Government House. She enjoys that.
And I also do lots of sea swimming. So I'm part of the Manx Blue Tits. I don't know if you've heard of those, Evie. So I didn't do it before I came. I mean, I always swam on holiday in Cornwall or Scotland and it was freezing. But I now swim most days around the island with different groups of people. And right through the winter in just my bathing suit. And I really enjoy it.
To such an extent she does it that I often, when I wake up, will not see my wife because she's out swimming. I'm a
cold water
swimming widower. Yeah. I've lost my wife to cold water swimming as far as I'm concerned. And they're a great bunch. They all came to breakfast last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, at Government House.
At Government House, which
after
was
a
great.
Swim, which was really good fun.
And I think the numbers seem to be increasing from what I hear.
Around the island.
Around the island, more people are
thousands of people swimming,
which is terrific because I think it's great for your health, physical and mental. And I think you do it with a lot of like-minded people, and that's great fun.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's great that the numbers are increasing. See, I like swimming, but I don't know if sea swimming would be my thing.
I think it's better if you're a bit on the podgy side, and you look nice and thin, Evie, so I think it's, if you've got a bit more war reserves around you, then I think it's probably not as cold. It really is quite chilly.
I don't know, I've got more than enough war reserves and I find it absolutely free. I swim on New Year's Day, Douglas, and that's it. I'm a bit of a wimp otherwise. But we did on this year, New Year's Day, we had about 20 of my cousins over from Scotland and their family, and all staying in Government House. And the only rule for them for the 5 days there, they had to come swimming with us on New Year's. Everything else was
because it was for breast cancer.
It was for breast cancer now and for Beach Buddies, and we're
patrons of both those.
Yeah. So we're really passionate about both of those organisations. So I got all my cousins out, and they were photographed wearing T-shirts with letters on them. We formed them into
Happy New Year
IOM exclamation mark.
That was.
I think one of our sons was an exclamation mark.
That's very impressive.
Yeah, but it was great fun. But anything, in terms of relaxing, anything that can take your mind off what you've been doing and give you fresh air, something that's active, something that allows you to get out. And at the same time, you can still think about what you were doing, but if you're doing something energetic, it just probably recharges your batteries.
And the Isle of Man is such a beautiful island.
Yeah.
There's so many sports opportunities. There's so much wildlife around to hear, listen to.
Yeah, so there's no shortage of things to sort of unwind doing.
Oh, that's good. So, in your life so far, what has been your proudest moment?
You go first.
Okay. Well, first of all, I mean, despite I've had a wonderful career in the military and things like that, but anything to do with family, so trumps everything, comes first. And so I've had many, many proud moments where the boys have done, we've got 3 sons, they've done something brilliantly, or my brother or sister or something, and anything to do that probably is right at the top of the list. Career-wise, I think the times I've been most proud is when an organisation that I've been part of has achieved something that either they or others were not expecting and done it well. And I think it's something that I say at some of the assemblies that I do at the schools around the island, is that success when it's gained as a team is much more fun and much more enjoyable than success that you gain as an individual. And if you gain that success working in a team with all the difficulties and challenges of working with a team, if you can gain that success, then that's the time to be proud. And I've had a couple of moments when I've achieved things with small groups of soldiers, which you look back and go, you know what, that made me very proud. Proud but not arrogant, which is something that is important. And then I suppose the last thing I'd say is that there are personal moments that you're incredibly proud of, and you feel. And I suppose the time when we went to Buckingham Palace with our 3 boys when I was knighted, because that was a moment that it wasn't just about me, it was about the 5 of us, because to allow me to have done all the things that I've done in the military, I could not have done it without Philippa and all her incredible support, and also the boys who've grown up with, and quite a lot of the time Dad's been away doing things. So I regarded that very much as that moment of being knighted. It was a moment where it was recognising all of the family's contribution to what we'd all achieved over a period of time. Gosh, that was a long answer to what should be a short, short one.
Yes, and actually you touched on it at the beginning, because I think as a mum, probably my proudest moments are when I stand back and I watch the 3 boys, and they're all really different, but they're great young men in their own way, interacting and liking each other and wanting to come home and wanting to be together, and they're very funny when they're all together and they get together and they really enjoy that time. And I look back and I think, weren't we clever to make these 3? So I think that's probably my proudest moments.
It's just fun, gosh, I mean, without banging on about it, but it is fun. We're so lucky and privileged to have 3 boys who get on and are doing, completely different, all doing different things, but they do get on. So that sense of family is still very strong. And Philippa just mentioned it. Talk about they like coming home, and home for us. We've moved, I think, 16 or 17 times since we've been married, and so our boys have moved an awful lot in their lives. And home for them is not a house that they've lived in, or that home is where mum and dad are living. And so they call Government House, they call the Isle of Man home. And we were talking to 2 of them last night on WhatsApp.
On the phone.
On the phone.
Said we want to come home.
We're coming home, planning on coming home. They've never properly lived here, but they visited here. Well, the younger 2 have visited here about 8 or 9 times, and to them it's home. It just happens to be a bit more challenging to get here, and I feel good about that, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, that is amazing. I think home is sort of like your safe place, and as you said, it doesn't have to be a house, but it's so important to have a safe place where you feel welcomed and loved and appreciated.
Yes,
that's captured it.
So my final question for you both, is there anything on your bucket lists that you would still like to do or achieve?
Well, I've still got on my bucket list, being a good natural scientist from university, to go to the Galapagos Islands. And now I'm not sure I'm ever going to be able to afford to do it, but if I had to write a bucket list, that would be at the top. I just think it would be amazing to go back and be able to look at all the things Charles Darwin wrote about and evolution and everything. So that's on my bucket list. What about you, John?
Well, I put down, I sort of thought about 2 that immediately spring to mind. Despite being a paratrooper and doing a lot of parachuting, I'm not actually very good with heights. I'm not brilliant at heights. And I would like to do a bungee jump, because that is, that there's a challenge in that anyway, but also it will go against my sort of natural reticence to throw myself.
I think you'd squeal quite a lot if you did a bungee jump.
So that's supposed. I would like to do it, and that would mean go to New Zealand to do it, because I think that's where it was originated, and there's fantastic wildlife down there, and there's some great rugby. So we can include that all in the bungee jump experience. And the second one, more seriously, is I'm desperate to visit Iran, and I visited and been to and spent a lot of time in virtually all the other countries in the Middle East. From Morocco in the far west, in North Africa, all the way into the Levant and into the Arabian Peninsula. So I've been to all these, but I haven't been to Iran, which has got the most extraordinary sites, fantastic art and architecture, and a real centre of civilization and Islamic culture for various reasons. And I'm not I would never describe myself as an expert, but I have specialised in the Middle East, and I can't really say that I've really cracked it until I have experienced going to Iran.
Which you can't at the moment.
I can't at the moment, safety reasons and all of that. But I will, even if I'm I aged 100 and with 2 sticks and whatever, I would still do it, because it would just be it will cap everything that I've done in the Middle East, to be able to go there and see what is an extraordinary country.
Oh wow, definitely, and hopefully you're both able to do those things. I can kind of agree with you about the bungee jump. I think that would be quite fun. I'm not fazed by heights, because I can't see how high up I am.
Yes, no, that's
actually,
true.
That's quite an advantage, isn't it, if you were standing on?
But I wonder what the feeling of speed and dropping is, whether that.
Still, I think it's exacerbated.
Well, I don't know, because when you jump out of we used to jump out of a balloon, and because it's not moving,
with a parachute on. Can I just hasten to add that?
I thought so, yeah.
And it felt that you were really dropping. But the best thing to do was always look up, and it looked like the balloon and the cage that you jumped out of was going away from you, not that you were going away from it. And it had a difference of perception, and you would feel better because of that. So you always looked up and watched it go away from you. So I wonder how
it might be worse,
dropping at speed, gosh.
Have you done anything that drops at speed?
No, not really. I feel like I probably would try it though, but I don't know, because I've never even been on like roller coasters and stuff.
I was going to ask that, fairgrounds, the things. Have you done those?
Well, those slides that are like a wall, and you sort of push off, and then they're built at the bottom, so you don't hurt yourself. You sort of drop, and then you go on those slides.
I think you ought to come bungee jumping with me. I think we can also make it into a holiday in New Zealand.
Yeah, I've never done even like roller coasters and stuff. One of the reasons I think not many of my family members are big fans of roller coasters and stuff, and me being a blind child, I would need someone to do it with me.
Yeah.
And
John's volunteering, Evie. So the next time there's a roller coaster somewhere on the
next TT, when we got when the fun fair comes.
Yeah, my friends are trying to get me to go to that, actually.
Yeah, well, there you are. Well, perhaps we've got a date.
Yeah, maybe.
Yes, I'm not sure you sound so convinced on that one.
So thank you so much, both of you, for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate you taking time out of your very busy lives to come and talk to me.
It's an absolute pleasure.
It's been a pleasure.
And we wish you the best of luck with continuing with the podcast. I think it's a brilliant idea. And good luck. And thank you very much indeed. We thoroughly enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And thank you to my audience for listening. And I will see you all next time.